Good morning, everybody in Europe. Good afternoon to those who are listening to our webinar series from China. Welcome to our SME Center webinar series today on overview and update on visa application for business immigration in China. For this topic, we have a very qualified speaker, Mr. William Cheng, who I will introduce a little bit later. When we ask companies coming to China to do a business, or companies who are already established in China, to put a list of serious questions, or let's say challenges, which they are facing on the way here, for sure one of those topics will be visa or immigration, like employment visa or visa for the business travelers. Therefore, we have decided today to devote 1 hour of our time and your time to these questions. Before we move directly to the topic on visa, employment permits, and so on, let me first do some technical questions. You could see on your screens a small panel which shows the questions. So please do not hesitate and send during the course of the webinar any questions you might have to us, to SME Center, or to our speaker, and we will try to reply to the questions during the webinar or later on after we finish. I believe that many of you already are familiar with SME Center, but just in case, for those who are listening to our webinar for the first time, let me shortly introduce SME Center and its services. We are a project funded by the European Union, and our purpose is to assist small and medium-sized companies to invest and import products, technology, and services in China. We are administered by 6 chambers of commerce. 5 of them are based in China. It's China-Britain Business Council, BenCham, Italian Chamber, French Chamber, and European Chamber, and Eurochamber back in Europe. What we do for small and medium-sized companies? We have a knowledge center, which is a large library of more than 100 reports and technical guidelines on different topics, like how to establish a company, tax issues, sectoral reports starting from the medical, from the healthcare, through the automotive sector and food and beverage, and many others. We have service providers database and exhibitions and international affairs in China database. On a daily basis, we reply to questions of companies via email or face-to-face consultations. We do trainings in both in Europe and in China on various topics. In the near future, we will have in Europe training on food and beverage in Brussels, so I'm sure that you will be notified if you are in our database. We do webinars like today's, and from the other services I would like to mention holidesking, which means that in a case you have a business trip to China, you can stop by in our office near to the Lufthansa Center in Beijing, and you can stay with us a few days, weeks, or a couple of weeks, and use a free internet connection, meeting rooms, and so on. From the other services, I would like to pay a special attention to what we are calling technical solutions. Comparing to the phase 1 of the project, we are now able to spend more time with one client and provide services like checking the contracts and legal documents. We will guide you through the customs procedures, advise you on the standard requirements, and what we can do as well, we will help you finding a distributor or the agent, and we will do the partner verification. These tailor-made services are now available, and if you are interested, please contact us. So it was a short introduction of SME Center and what services we are providing. Now to our speaker and to the topic. Mr. William Cheng is a partner at Ernst & Young, and he leads a global immigration team in Ernst & Young Beijing office. Mr. Cheng has more than 20 years experience in advising to companies on implementing effective immigration policies. So in this, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Cheng to tell us what we will be listening today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Okay, so let us look at our agenda today. Firstly, 7 steps to get foreign individuals long-term employment ready in China. That means how to plan and gather the required information, certificates on each step to get your work permit and resident permit ready. Secondly, I will explore with you the reality in China. When we apply for the permits and visas for your employee, what are the challenges and difficulties? Hopefully, with those lessons learned, we can overcome those difficulties. And then thirdly, I will talk about the best way to bring your business travelers or assignee under short-term employment in order to comply with the new regulations. Last but not least, I will share some experience and go through some of the typical case study with you.
Thank you. And at this moment, as is our custom, we are asking questions to the audience as well. And we have 2 questions prepared for you at the beginning. So let me first launch the first poll. And the question is, do you have any experience in successfully submitting a Chinese visa? And the answer is easy, yes or no. So please choose what is your experience, or basically whether you have experience or don't have successful experience. And we are seeing the result. Okay, I will close the poll now and share the results with you. And it shows that 75% of you have successful application experience to obtain a visa to China, 25% no. Then let's ask immediately another question, which is, what do you think is the most concern when applying for a Chinese visa? First one, is it a type of validity of the visa? Is it a visa processing time? Is it a supporting documents, language, or all the above? So for those who applied successfully and who have experience, please tell us what you see as most troublesome. We'll give a few more seconds. And then we will close and share the results again. And it shows that 65% of you thinks that type of or validity of visa is the most challenging question. 45% of you, the second, think it's supporting documents. 20, it's a processing time. 15% have bad experience with all above. And only 5% of you thinks it's a language. Okay, so I now hide the slides, hide the results, and we will move back to our presentation. I will give the floor back to Mr. Chen.
Thank you. Let us turn to our first topic today, 7 steps for your employees to get their work documents for long-term employment in China. Actually, similar to a lot of countries, we need a local company or representative office to sponsor the overseas employee Chinese work permit application. As you can see from the blue color box and orange color box at the bottom of this slide, actually we need quite a lot of information or certificates from both employee and the company. Personal information like academic certificates, resume, employment certificate to prove the 2 years working experience. From my experience, this could be quite bothering because his or her prior employer may not want to do such a favor. And also, non-criminal reports could be a headache too, because some countries may need the applicants to visit the police station in person to apply. Countries like Netherlands or Ireland, which require the individuals to attend an interview for the application. And some countries may take very long processing time, like Russia or Germany. So, in addition to personal information, we also need company information like business license, approval certificate, employment contract, etc. So you can see from the left-hand side of this slide, the first step will be conducting a health check. Actually, overseas employee, they can choose a local hospital or clinic in their home country, or they can visit the Chinese location when he or she is coming to conduct the health check. For all the health check conducted outside China, actually the reports need to be verified by an authorized healthcare center in China. We have seen that the health check conducted outside China, sometimes some tests may be missed, which are mandatory required by the authorized healthcare center. So, so my suggestion is, in case the applicants will be visiting China or have the look and see trip prior to their commencement date, they can consider to do the health check in China to avoid missing some of the tests and need to redo it again. And then once the health check report is ready, we can go to step 2. Step 2 is actually applying for employment license with the Labor Bureau. Again, you can refer to the blue and orange color boxes for the required documentations. The Labor Bureau usually takes 10 working days to process and issue the employment license. And then step 3 is application of a letter of invitation. This is going through Public Security Bureau. So most of the Chinese city, they do require online applications before actually submitting the hard copy application. The processing time for both online and on-site applications will be around 5 working days. And the letter of invitation is valid for 3 months. And then after we obtain the letter of invitation, he or she can apply for the single entry Z visa, which is a work visa, from their home country, Chinese embassy, consulate, or visa application center in their home country, which is indicated on step 4. The application time usually take 4 working days, but different countries may have slightly differences on the approval time. And then the employee can enter into China using the single entry Z visa, and it is valid for 3 months. And then the employee can start travel into China, and then upon arrival, he or she need to apply for registration of temporary residence. Okay, this is important. We need to do it within 24 hours. Otherwise, it may be considered as a violation, and then penalty may be imposed. And then the final 2 steps will be applying for the employment permit with the Labor Bureau and foreign resident permit with the Public Security Bureau. For these 2 applications, one thing is important. Okay, you need to surrender your passport. So during the application, 5 working days plus 15 working days, you are not allowed to travel outside China because you no longer have your passport under your possession. So the whole process from step 1 to 7 will be about 2 to 3 months in total. So my experience is planning ahead, scheduling is very important, because always someone may need to start the job appointment very urgently, or he or she may need to travel elsewhere, but actually his or her passport is kept by the authority during the application. So it's essential that planning and scheduling are very important. And then the next slide. In China, the employment permit and foreign resident permit are normally granted for 1 year, and is subject to annual renewal. On this slide, we are going to talk about the renewal application. Fortunately, the renewal steps will be relatively simpler compared to the first application. It's mainly include 3 steps, as you can see from the slide. The first step is for the overseas employee to update their temporary residence registrations, the one that we need to apply within 24 hours on arrival. And then the next two steps will be submitting the employment permit. It takes 3 to 5 working days, and the foreign resident permit renewal application, which takes 15 days. So as you can see, it usually takes about 1 month to complete the whole renewal process. And also during this process, you also need to surrender your passport to the local immigration office. So you need to plan ahead before you travel. Okay, now you may have a better understanding on how to obtain the long-term employment permit and related documents in China. But when it comes to real life, what is going on? As it sounds so straightforward as per what I've just shown you earlier. Actually, on July 2013, a new immigration law has been implemented in China. This slide, I've highlighted some of the main changes for your reference. So by looking at in the middle column is actually before the new law, and then on the right-hand side is after the new law. On processing time, is increased. It's almost double up. So from 5 days to actually 7 to 15 days. So it takes much longer. And then in the past, there are if you have urgent case, there are expedited services. But right now, it's almost disappear. And then there are new requirements like, okay, people need to submit their non-criminal report. I've already mentioned that, which may take a very long time. And then for some certificates which is not in Chinese language, okay, we need to conduct the notarization, which in the past this is not required. And also in the past, if you have obtained, say, tourist visa, business visa, and then you can do the conversion into resident permit in some locations in China in the past. But right now, it's also disappeared.
In this moment, I would like to interrupt you, William, and ask a question which was asked by one of our listeners. And the gentleman is asking, he said that he arrived to China on a business visa, he says M visa, and during that time he managed to find a job here. He got in contact with some company, he was offered a contract. Now he would like to change his business visa into the working permit, but without leaving the China. What options does he have available, or is it possible?
Unfortunately, I don't have good news here. Actually, the business M visa, it cannot be changed to work visa within China. So he or she is required to leave China and then apply for a single entry Z visa from the Chinese Embassy Consulate in their home country. So basically, in other words, the applicants need to go through the whole process, the 7 steps, in order to obtain the work authorizations in China.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, the next slide. Not only because of the new immigration law, actually, unlike other Western countries, in China, the detailed implementation procedure is determined by the city government. So, as you know, different Chinese city, okay, they may have, say, different interpretation differences on the application requirement. So you can see from this slide, I'm using Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou as a reference because I understand some of your company are based in those locations. So it may be useful for you to look at. And also based on my experience, some remote cities, second-tier cities, okay, they may require more information in addition to the documents that I listed in the previous slide. So by looking at, okay, actually, Beijing, it seems that we need a lot of original certificate. Everything needs to be original. They don't accept copies. And resume, it needs to be in Chinese translation. And also improving the employment relationship. All these locations, they require, say, local employment contract or an assignment letter. And some locations, on the assignment letter, they need both parties. Okay, your home company, as long as the Chinese company both sign on the agreements to certify that, okay, both is agree on this appointment. Okay, in view of the above, actually, I have listed here the challenges and difficulties for the Chinese work document applications. Like very long processing time. Actually, the whole set of fresh application takes 2 to 3 months, and the annual renewal takes about 1 month. And also, the immigration officer, the department, in many times they need to check the originals. So you need to take or courier all your certificates to China for the application. And also, not to mention the Chinese translation, and also for the non-Chinese certificate, you need to do the notifications in the Chinese embassy or consulate. In addition, a company may have employee, say, under different assignment types based on the real activities they perform in China. For example, business traveler, they may have, say, frequently travel inside and outside China. Some short-term assignee, they may need to rotate between different projects. And for some long-term people, they may need to, say start their work early. So actually, companies need to pay attention on the application requirement, timelines, so that they can bring their best people to China on board. We have just go through the application for long-term assignee. Let us turn to business travelers or assignee with short-term employment. Actually, before 2015, China did not have short-term employment visa. But nowadays, companies do send people to other countries to take up short-term projects, or sometimes there are temporary staffing needs. So with the new short-term employment regulations actually came in force on January 1st, 2015, we have seen international companies can better rotate their people to China for short-term needs. So as you can see on this slide, basically for people who require to stay to work or stay in China for no more than 90 days, basically there are 3 options on the visa. For business visa, this is the most straightforward visa that the applicants can apply. But okay, depends on the activities because it pretty much depends on the activities that the applicants will be conducting in China. So in case someone is, say, providing maintenance, installation testing, disassembly, coaching, training, related to the sales of machine and equipment. So we have seen a lot of construction company, okay, after the equipment sale, okay, they may need to bring some, say, technicians to be on site in order to conduct those installations. So in the past, it is not clear, but right now, they are allowed to use business visa to provide those services. And also, coaching, supervision, inspection for the big project. And then the next one, performing short-term work activities for subsidiaries, branches, or web offices. Actually, this point is actually quite important because a lot of companies, okay, they have set up in China, but in case they need some short-term help in the past, they have no other choice but need to apply for the work permit for those employees. But actually, right now, if those employees they are working under this, say, related subsidiaries, branches, or web office, they can apply for business visa rather than applying for a long-term or short-term employment visa. And also, sports event, tournament, those are allowed. And then the second category is business visa for non-commercial. This has happened quite often because a lot of Chinese governing authorities, they may invite some visitors in order to attend their meetings and also for some cultural exchange. So, so those non-commercial visas is also applicable. And then the rest from item 7 to item 12, okay, those are applicable for short-term employment permit. Okay, as you can see, if someone is, say, rendering technical, scientific research, management, or consulting, okay, and then works for the cooperative entity in China, okay, that is versus item 3 above, because item 3 is mainly, okay, working in, say, subsidiaries, branches, and web office. But number 7 is, okay, pretty much unrelated party. And then also conducting training for sports association in China, film production, fashion show, okay, they need to apply short-term employment permit. And also commercial performance, like if a singer is coming to China for a concert performance, then the short-term employment permit is required.
Yeah, and we are receiving really a lot of questions. Our colleagues here in the meeting room are very busy taking notes, so we will have a quite long Q&A session at the end. However, I would like to ask one question at this point. Someone is asking about the representative office and a chief representative office. They will have the company is going to establish a representative office in China, and the chief representative will be not residing permanently in China. This person will be traveling between Europe and China. And the question is, what type of visa this chief representative shall apply for, or is he subject to visa?
I see. Actually, the chief representative need to apply for a representative card, and then employment permit and work visa, actually regardless of how long he or she will be staying in China. So the answer is yes, they need to apply for one. For other employee, in case they are going to work for the representative office for less than 90 days, they may travel to China with a business M visa. If they will be working in China for more than 90 days, actually they will be required to appoint as a general rep and go through the long-term work document application process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then the next slide. In terms of the say short-term employment visa, in terms of the application step, I'm sure all of you will remember there are 7 steps to complete the long-term employment applications in the previous slide. With the new regulations on short-term employment visa, actually, quite fortunately, only 4 steps are required for those whose working period is 30 days or below. It takes 5 steps for those whose working period in China is between 31 days to 90 days. This slide actually pretty much the same as the previous long-term employment application page. The only difference is assignee doesn't need to conduct the health check, either in home or host location. And also, after the assignee has arrived in China and applied for the temporary residence registration, no further step will be required. The total processing time will be required for about is close to 1 month, which is much shorter than the long-term employment application. And then actually for those people who need to work in China from 31 days to 90 days, he or she is required to transfer their 30 days single entry stat visa into foreign resident permit with a duration of 90 days. So the whole process will take about 1 to 1.5 months. Now we turn to look at some of the pros and cons. As mentioned, you can see from this slide that there are advantages in applying short-term employment visa versus the long-term employment application. Actually, it makes the company to assign their short-term assignee over to China more effectively and efficiently after this new regulations has been enforced. Actually, the first two points are very obvious: short processing time and relatively simple application step, which we have discussed before. Also, there are fewer documents which are required to submit for the short-term employment application. Process like assignee do not need to take health check or conduct any non-criminal examination. We also do not need to provide local contract or assignment letter. So, so the authority won't need, also the authority won't need any, say, original documents before he or she arrived in China. And also, in case they are working in China for less than 30 days, no need for them to submit the passport to the local immigration office, so they can better plan their trips inside and outside China. Last but not least, the short-term work permits allow employees to work in multiple locations. Actually, they will have say they will put the locations in the permit so that someone can authorize to work in multiple locations. By comparing the short-term employment permit with the business visa, there are also several advantages as well. Firstly, short-term assignee will be granted a longer duration of stay in China compared with the, say, ordinary business visa. So they do not need to travel between China and other countries to renew the business visa. And also, short-term employment, they will have a designated local sponsor entity. If that's the case, then okay, all the standardized, say, legal working papers, work permit, that will be standardized. So the next is the same as we talked before. Multiple working locations can be chosen for short-term employment by writing at the short-term work certificates. So those are actually quite helpful.
I think we have mentioned already somewhere in your slides, William, about the residents reporting the residents in China for the long-term and short-term visa. But let's ask the question again. If I come, it's a question, if I come to China on a short-term employment visa, do I have to report my residence in China at police station?
Yes, actually, no matter whether someone is holding a business visa, short-term or long-term work permit, actually, all overseas, all visitors, when they enter China, okay, they need to apply the temporary residence with the police station within 24 hours. So, so the answer is yes, they need to do that. Okay, so having said there are lots of advantages of the short-term employment visa, actually on this slide I would like to highlight the non-compliance so that you can understand what will cause illegal employment for short-term employment in China. Things like, okay, someone do not actually follow the application requirement, or actually there are some activities which is beyond the work scope under the short-term work certificate, because actually in the applications you need to fill out what is actually the work you will be engaging in China. So if the activities is beyond that work scope, then it could be considered as illegal. And then okay, the short-term permit valid for say 90 days. So upon expirations, then it will be considered as illegal.
You have mentioned several times that will be illegal, but what could happen to a person, for example, if the visa expired and the person is still in China and basically without valid visa? The visa expired a few weeks or days before. What could happen to such a person?
Very good questions. From my experience, I think it depends on whether someone has valid reasons, and also the authorities, the immigration officer, they will look at their intention. So in case this is not a serious violation, usually, okay, so you will be asked to sign a disposition notice, and then pay a pay a low penalty, like something like 500 per day, and up to 5,000 to the local government authority. I've seen some more serious violation. So in addition to penalty, the individual may be asked, okay, to leave China within a specific period. And also in those cases, the sponsoring company may also be penalized on those, the cost, and also the cost of, leaving China. And on some extreme case, I mean, depends on the intention. Okay, the person may be prosecuted, and the company's business registration may be suspended, and it also will affect the future registration or renewal of the company.
That's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. We have now been gone through both long-term and short-term application process. Actually, my last topic is to share with you some experience with case studies. Actually, the first one is for special applications for some of the employee not meeting the basic criteria for obtaining the Chinese working documents. You may have employee who already reached the retirement age 60 or above. In those cases, we may need to provide evidence to support that actually such job position is very difficult to be filled and cannot be replaced by someone. And then in case for some young people, because for the work permit applications, we need to prove 2 years working experience. So in case, okay, some young people, they are graduate just after the university graduations, they may have a hard time in fulfilling those requirements. Or someone who are technical-based employee and have not obtained university degree certificate. If that's the case, then we need to support the applicants who possess, say, specific skills, and it is very essential to the job requirement. And in those cases, actually relevant working experience, qualifications, or certificates will help the applications. And then on the next one, I have special industry. Actually, I realized from the registrations list that some of your company may fall into this special or kind of restricted industry in China, like education, healthcare, legal, transportation, and so on. Actually, for those operation or application, they may require additional approval from the governing authorities who oversee the industry. So, so in case you are under those industry, okay, you may need to take into account that whether your applicants meet those requirements of the governing authorities. Last but not least, actually, many businesses, when they first come to China, they may consider to set up a representative office because usually representative office has a relatively low cost to set up before they will consider, say, different types of company like wholly foreign-owned enterprise or joint venture to support their future growth. Certain things that need to bear in mind is actually for representative office, they can only allow to hire up to four overseas employees. So there's a limitations. And then for others, wholly owned subsidiaries or joint venture, this is pretty much depends on the registered capital. If the capital is not, say sufficient, there may be also a limit on hiring overseas employee.
Thank you very much, William, for the excellent presentation and really in-depth insight. We have received, I would say, about 25-30 questions, and now we will have a time for a Q&A session. I believe that some of those questions were already, which we have received, were already asked by your slides, but let me ask them either again, because it's important to mention them again, or we will come back if we do not manage to answer your questions during this following 15 minutes. We will come back to you afterwards if you are registered in our database in the SME Center. So what I have seen, there were quite a few questions probably asked by a student or maybe by a company intended to hire student or someone who should act as an intern. And the question was, can a student who just finished studies in Europe and is looking for a job in China, first question, can this student apply for a visa, and what type of visa he shall apply if possible?
Good questions, and actually this is a difficult question to answer. Actually, foreigners working in China, they should apply for employment permit and work visa. In order to apply and obtain those, say, work visas, the applicants should have at least 2 years full-time working experience after graduation from the university. So as you have just so in case, okay, a student just finished, say, finish school from the university, usually it's quite difficult to prove that, okay, someone will meet the work experience requirement. We have seen some case that, okay, the authority may allow, say, 1 year working experience instead of 2 years. But for your case, if this is a student just finished school in Europe, I think it's quite difficult to obtain a work permit in China.
Mm-hmm. Another question is coming from a business person. This business person is regularly visiting China, or plans to regularly visit China, attending the international fairs or exhibition. What type of visa would be suitable for those this person?
It pretty much depends on, say, various conditions, such as, say, nature of the work that person coming to China will be performing. And then actually how long and how frequently do this person come into China for these international fairs. Based on my experience, say, if someone entering China regularly for, say, limited business activities on a temporary basis to attend those international fairs, activities like, say, meeting potential or existing clients to discuss about sales and their products, in those situations, they can apply for business M visa because the business M visa usually can say is granted to people for conducting commercial and trade activities.
And again, a question, I guess now this time coming from a company based in China. They have need of hiring a student, foreign student, and they find out someone studying at the Chinese university, and this student would like as well to do some practice in their company. I mean, I guess that this person came to China on a student visa. So what are the regulations for this company or for the student? Does he need to change a visa, or can he has his visa and still, let's say, work in a company?
I see. Actually, foreign students studying at a Chinese university, okay, supposedly they should have a student visa. In case he or she will be working outside the university, actually, a local employer, they are required to report the student internship or on-the-job training information to the local immigration office. Actually, the immigration office, they will affix a stamp on the student visa and then to grant the approval. But however, based on my experience, actually, the Chinese immigration office very seldom granted those approval. So those students will have a hard time in obtaining, say the approval in order to say work part-time or internship.
Mm. That's not good news, neither for the companies, not for the students. But let's wait for some new regulation. We have really a lot of questions. And one of the questions is here, during the time, because you mentioned several times when the person applying for the visa or renewing the visa does not have a passport, he has to hand it over the passport to the authorities. Does this person have any paper or document to travel inside China? Because, I mean, those are business people here, so they have to travel between Beijing, Shanghai, buy a ticket, and so on.
Yeah, yeah. During the first application or during the say annual renewal, okay, we need to surrender the passport for about say 15 to 20 working days. So that gives us a hard time in traveling. But when we submit the passport, actually, the authority will issue, say, a receipt or certificate to prove that, okay, they already take your passport. So with that certificate, you can travel, okay, you can take a flight, you can take a high-speed train to travel within China, but not outside China, because actually you need your passport in order to leave China.
That's good. Then another question is from a person apparently already working in China and having a working permit. And he or she is asking, is it possible to use working permit issued by company A if I will work with the company B?
I see. If that's the case, then strictly speaking, it will be considered as illegal employment in China, because actually the work permit is granted to company A and not company B. And also bear in mind, I have seen cases that there are random check by the immigration office and also the Public Security Bureau. So in case they have a random check and say visit your company, then you need to prepare how to answer those questions.
Yeah. Hopefully that the administration or authorities will not be too tough with you. We have another questions, and let's say many questions. And the first one of them is, how long can a work visa in China last?
Okay, it's valid for 1 year.
Okay, so which means if I'm employed here in China, every year I have to give up my passport for some time, not to travel. And
unfortunately, that's the case. So that should be an annual exercise. So every year you miss your passport for say 15, 20 days.
Yeah, I have some friends there, just to interrupt it. Their visa is going to expire usually around the Chinese New Year. They are foreigners, yeah, because they have a visa. So around the Chinese New Year, when they would like to travel outside the China, basically they cannot, because they handed over their passport to the Chinese authorities. So plan well when you want to prolong your visa. We have another question. Can a short-term work visa be applied for in Hong Kong or in a home country?
Hong Kong, okay, if you are Hong Kong resident, or say, or if you are residing in Hong Kong, then you can apply, submit the application in Hong Kong. But basically, if this is not your case, then Hong Kong doesn't work. You need to go back to your home country to apply the work visa.
Mm-hmm. So it's much stricter than it used to be in the past, right? You have mentioned that in 2013 there was a significant change in the entry-exit laws in China, and they changed and they added many types of visa into the list. So one of the question is the F visa still issued, and for what purposes?
Yeah. Normally the commercial, the business visa for commercial purpose is under M visa. Okay, that's the new type of visa starting from 2013. For F visa is more or less based on those non-commercial activities. So depends on your depends on your sponsor entity, depends on your activities to be carried out in China. In case those activities are more or less non-commercial, China could still issue F visa.
Mm-hmm. Again, a question about the working visa. Can else be 2 to 5 years, not only 1 year? So the person is probably asking whether the work visa can be issued for longer period than 1 year.
I see. Good questions. I would say 99% of the cases are granted only 1 year. But depends. Okay, in case your companies say has very high registered capital, then then I've seen cases that okay, some of the senior executive, they are allowed to their work permit will be valid for 2 to 5 years. So I mean, this is pretty much depends on industry and as well as whether the registered capital is say high enough.
Mm-hmm. When I was today preparing for our webinar, I was checking websites of Chinese embassies in the foreign countries, some of the websites of the Chinese embassies in the foreign countries, and was trying to find out what type of visa are there. And specifically, I was looking for the short-term employment visa, and I could not find any. So if there is a person who wished to come to China for the short-term employment visa, what is this group named? Is it Z visa, M visa? What they shall tell to the Chinese embassy what type of visa they are applying for?
My experience is actually each Chinese embassy or consulate actually they have some hotlines to answer questions. So I mean, there are various sources. Okay, you can refer those questions to the consulate, and also there are a lot of information on the website. Okay, you can search around and see whether those say informations will be useful to your case to do some research.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then we have another question which is based more or less on a policy, kind of the political question as well. The person is asking that he has information or that he knows that, for example, UK or the US and some other European countries were making it easier for Chinese citizens to apply for the work in their countries respectively. And is there any such a sign similar in China, like that China would make the same effort to make it easy to apply, or to make it easy for the foreigners to apply for working visa, employment visa here in China?
Actually, I haven't seen that. Okay, there's say easier application or approval for U.S. person, UK person, or EU persons. So based on my experience, actually, I mean, China is tightening the rules in recent years. So so with the new law passed and implemented in say July 2013, we have seen okay, the processing time, approval time takes longer, and some application requirements have been tightened. So so actually, it has not been relaxed to specific countries, or actually, it's quite tightened up now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much, William. I mean, the other questions which we have received were more or less variation of the same topics related to the intern working visa, length of the visa. However, if you think that your question hasn't been asked, please register on our website usmecenter.org.cn. Send the question to us. We will try to reply, or we will reply to you within 1 week. I would like to thank again Mr. Cheng to coming to us, because he's very busy in his schedule, and he shared his long-term experience with us. I hope it's not the last time you come here, because the Q&A session is one of the busiest I have seen here during our webinar. So thank you again. Thank you to our audience, to our listeners. Please join us next week, next Tuesday, for another webinar. Please check all the information which we have in our websites. We hope they will be useful to your way to China, getting ready for the China. Thank you and goodbye.